It's a free Discord. Well, kind of. It's not really that free. Okay, so let's do quick feedback time on this video here. So everybody, if you can, let's all watch together. Open mind, open hearts. What is the Friday Night Lights saying? Be free, be happy, be healthy. Hello, Jacka. I don't know if we're winning yet.
Clown by day, serial killer at night. Meet John Wayne Gacy. John Wayne Gacy was a serial killer who, in his daytime job, was a clown. His favorite clown character that he created were Pogo and Patches.
I don't know if I like watching this. I feel like I'm gonna have nightmares tonight.
His victims were males aged 14 to 21, and he buried them deep in the crawl space of his house. Wayne, in an interview, said that while working at a mortuary, he climbed inside the coffin of a dead boy and slept next to him. But later, he grew frightened and jumped out. He said this experience left him deeply scarred. While on death row, Gacy became a skilled painter, selling his artwork as murderabilia. His paintings often depicted skeletons and clowns. They were highly sought after, with some famous people owning his work. One of those famous persons is Johnny Depp.
Yeah. Hell yeah. Dude, I promise everybody thinks their voice is awful. You have a lovely voice. Don't overthink about your vocal delivery. Man, I cannot even imagine how long making something like this took, dude.
Clown by day.
This, like, you've got a ton of stuff going on. What'd you guys think? Yay, nay? Did enjoy parts that worked, parts that didn't work?
Serial killer at night. Meet John Wayne Gacy. John Wayne Gacy was a serial killer who, in his daytime job, was a clown. His favorite clown character that he created were Pogo.
Yeah, I believe it.
Most of his victims.
You got a lot of stuff happening here.
Buried them deep in the crawl space of his house. Wayne, in an interview, said that while working at a mortuary, he climbed inside the coffin of a dead boy and slept next to him. But later, he grew frightened and jumped out. He said this experience.
Is it just me, or does your volume dip right in here?
Space of his house. Wayne, in an interview, said that while working at a mortuary, he climbed inside the coffin of a dead boy and slept next to him.
Yeah, right here. Something's happening on that 28-second mark right in here, where you're losing volume.
But later, he grew frightened and jumped out. He said this experience left him deeply scarred.
Yeah, this is that. Whatever this is.
And slept next to him. But later, he grew
that was sick
and jumped out. He said this experience left him deeply scarred. While on death row, Gacy became a skilled painter.
I'm not sure if this is a goof on the mask or it's supposed to be like this.
Selling his artwork as murderabilia. His paintings often depicted skeletons and clowns. They were highly sought after, with some famous people owning his work. One of those famous persons is Johnny Depp.
So, okay, in terms of like, I'm assuming this is going to be a short, go on social media.
One of those famous
something like that
is Johnny Depp.
There's no need for an end card on a short form video. If somebody's gonna be interested in what you're doing, they know how to find you, right? Like, they'll go to your profile. So as long as you have the relevant information, like this, whatever, like if you have link outs here somewhere, they'll find it. Especially like including your at the end card, it's not going to do a lot for you because they're already here, right? Like they're already watching the short. So I would just remove this. Dude, I don't know if I have a lot of feedback. So what I say, and I think people have heard me say this a million times, is in terms, like, I could probably give you some like really small nitpicky things that, like Viddy said, like there might be things that you could do with like the font or, how you size or position something, or maybe you can lessen the grain or, like stuff like that. that is really small, but in terms of like the video as a whole, I think you did a really good job with pacing, visuals. Your vocal delivery is also good, so don't overthink your voice. And I was able to follow the video as well. If I won't try to get too nitpicky.
Serial killer.
The only thing I'll say is that there's a few moments in here where you might be better off with a little less is more.
Meet John Wayne Gacy.
So this was one scene in particular where I almost feel like it's cool. Like this texture element is real cool. But I feel like this in the combination with the, I don't know what you call this, like a CRT pixel scan overlay. It almost feels busy just to be busy. But that's like, again, this is like just personal preference. I don't necessarily think it's wrong or a bad thing. But for me, whenever I think of, this has been like my go-to phrase the last week or so is when we're making videos, the goal is like visual clarity, right? We want to make sure people can easily understand what we're talking about. So sometimes elements like this artistically are kind of fun. It detracts away from the information you're trying to provide.
When Gacy was a serial killer who in his daytime job was a clown. His favorite clown.
Oh, I didn't notice that before.
John Wayne Gacy was a serial killer who in his daytime job was a clown.
Creepy,
his
dude.
favorite clown character that he created were Pogo and Patches. Most of his victims were males aged.
So like this shot in particular, I think works really well because you do have some kind of overlay or adjustment layer on top of it, but it's pretty easy to read out all the different faces you have on here.
21, and he buried them deep in the crawl space of his house.
Super cool. Like that. You do a couple of these transitions, like the zoom through, zoom out transitions.
In an interview,
really cool.
Said that while working at a mortuary.
Yeah. I don't know. Did anybody else have thoughts, feedback on the short? Anything else you felt like worked well, didn't work well? I think it's cool, man. I can tell you put a ton of time into it. Wicked sick. When you say that, I think of Rocket Power. I feel like Rocket Power is kind of like an Unk show at this stage, huh? That's tough. That's tough for me. Unlucky. Oh my gosh, you know what Rocket Power is? Oh my gosh. Can we get a big round of applause for Spati? Nicely done. Nicely done. Well done. Very well done. Okay. So let's talk scripting a little bit. Pizza. Was there something in particular you were hoping to talk about, or is it just more general, like what are some good things to do when we're planning out scripting videos? My question for the week is, how do I become a handsome Giga Chad like you? A lot of peptides. A lot of them. So I cycle different kinds of like bull testosterone, peptides, some other exotic juices that I can't really, I don't know if it's super appropriate to share in this Discord, but just a lot of fluids, like a lot of fluid exchange. You know what I'm saying? Why is it backwards? What's backwards? Wait, what is backwards? What'd I do? The clap? Oh, Jacka's clap is reversed. It is funny. You asked for topics? Brother. Okay. Well, I appreciate your participation, Pizza. Thank you. Scripting. What would be helpful for you guys to talk through for scripting? Should we just maybe pick like a sample subject and talk through How we would write something for it. We could do a working example. Or do we not care? I sent you something per DM, but not priority one at the moment. Bet. Bet. How about this? How about I give us a couple topics that we could talk to, and then we'll pick one and talk about how we could write for it. Just the do's and don'ts of scripting, like when to do it. When to do it is yes. How much to do it? Different question. In a room full of editors, I'm the best writer. In a room full of writers, I am the best editor. Challenge accepted. I want to share the trick. Okay. So how about this then? How about this? Let's do this. Let's do this. Holy and Faco, why don't you guys both come up and share some. I'll say pick one piece of advice that you think is the most important when it comes to scripting. Is that cool? Is that fair? Raise your hand. Raise your hand and come up, because I also have to go potties. I'm telling you, dude. Like right when I do office hours, the old like the coffee, I haven't like had anything to eat yet, so it's just coffee and water. And wait, hold on. How did you do that? Now, hold on here. How did you do that? Wait, Raj accepted it? Oh my God, that's a dangerous power.
Hey, no, Ven, I didn't do anything.
I was gonna say, wait, Faco can do that? I didn't know that.
I think as certified, I might be able to, but
Okay.
yeah, it says the Holy MS requested to speak, and it's a thing that says only stage moderators can see this. So I guess theoretically I could, but I didn't.
Okay. Well, Holy, why don't you start, and I will be right back, and then Faco, you can chime in whenever you're ready.
I would love to that if Faco starts, because I need 1 or 2 minutes to prepare.
Okay. Faco, why don't you give one of your favorite pieces of writing advice and talk to it. I'll be right back.
I had to run across my house because when Brandon said, like, okay, homie, get us started, I got up because I was like, oh, I grab something to drink really quick while I listen. And then he said, oh, no, have Faco go first. Okay. So, I can't do visuals here. So we're just going to have to, luckily, my biggest piece of advice is something simple. It's not about sentence structure. It's not about anything like that. It's about knowing what your thesis is and what to do with it. Where figure out what you're scripting about. So in the case of I make video essays, so it's going to be essay heavy, but writing advice. Most most writing of advice can kind of like circle back to whatever it is you're talking about. Where it's always about what your thesis is. If you're unsure what to add, ask if it adds or distracts from your thesis. If it distracts, then don't do it. If it adds, do it. If you need, when reviewing your script, see if you have essentially proven your point, which typically your thesis can be whatever the title of the video is. That's a strong one. God, I'm winded.
Winded from what?
Whenever Holy said that when Whenever Holy said they wanted me to go first, I was across my house because I was grabbing something to drink. So I had to run back.
You had to run back?
Yeah, I was literally across my office is at the end of my house, and my kitchen's on, like, the other side of my house.
I was gonna say, what do you live in, a mansion?
I do not, I'm just out of shape.
Yeah,
Uh
Faco just came back from the west wing of his house.
The west wing to the east wing of the estate, the property.
but yeah, trim it down really easy. Espresso's doing good. Espresso's gotten so big. You want a video of me dapping up espresso?
I would.
Yeah, here, I'll send it in chat. But yeah, if you ask me to do a singular piece of important advice, let me loop it back around. And it's you can decide almost everything that if you're keeping a segment, if a segment's going well, just think about how well does something concern the thesis of your video. That can be the point of the essay, that can be the goal of the gaming challenge, that can be the point of the story. Just always go back to a thesis.
How would you? Did you already talk about what like a thesis means?
The thesis is essentially what is the focal point of what you're writing about. What is essentially you can find your thesis by saying what's the point? Why am I talking about this?
So would if I was making a video on um, how to run really far, is that my thesis, or what would be the thesis for like a video like that?
Uh, if it is if it is genuinely just like what's up guys? Today I'm gonna teach you how to run really fast. Come along if you can. Then it is going to the thesis is okay, everything's going to lead back. Everything that you talk about, everything that you're writing about is going back to the place of running fast. But if you are making a video about running fast for the thesis of saying, I don't know, maybe it's some kind of pretentious story where you're trying to run away from your past, then your thesis would be whatever that entails. It's essentially like, what is not just what the subject is, but what's the point of you approaching the subject? Your
Okay.
thesis isn't just if I am making a video about Alien Stage. My thesis is an Alien Stage. It's the reason why I'm talking about it.
Okay. So I kind of like to expand on this thought because I feel like this is a really good idea or like thing to kind of understand when it comes to storytelling because it's one thing to make a video on how to run fast. I think most people could probably, like walk outside, record, and figure out how to do this. I think the thing that's more difficult is how to make a video on how to run fast that is, I don't know where I'm going with my arrow, is engaging and you connect with somebody. So I'm kind of curious as to like, let's just do maybe like a rough outline on Faco's version of this video. So if you were to make a video and you can take that in whatever direction you'd like to go with. What would be some things that you would think about doing to make a video on how to run fast, engaging, and connect with somebody?
So, uh, AU alternate universe where I am making a video like this, but I'm trying to put my traditional uh writing philosophies. Yeah, stranger, that is what I would go about. The thesis would be why do you want to run fast? Because it's not just a matter of how to do it, pure information if you're trying to connect, but it's also like, yeah, I can tell you one foot in front of the other. It very quick. We do that often, work on your stamina, et cetera, et cetera. But if I'm trying to mo like motivate you, it would have to do with yeah, why do you want to run fast? Is it the freedom? Is it because you really like Sonic the Hedgehog? Is it for health? It's kind of just keep going into that why. And if this is something like I wanted to learn how to run fast, I would talk about why I wanted to learn how to run fast and essentially start there. Start with that exact point. If like if I wanted to, sorry, I'm really rambly. I
No,
take a
you're good,
picture,
dude. I'm completely following along. You're good.
but yeah, it's essentially like if I cared enough to make a video about running fast, it would be why did I want to learn how to run fast, and it would be exploring that top. Happy birthday, Raj! It would be exploring that topic of why I wanted to through explaining how I did it.
Okay. So if I'm understanding what you're saying correctly, a lot of times, and this is answering these whys, or even just like being self conscious of these whys, is your vehicle to connect with somebody. So if, let's say, is this something that you try to address in the intro? Is it something that you try to address throughout? Obviously it depends on the video, but um, I like a lot of times, when we talk about editing, we talk about scripting. These kind of things are really easy to understand, but it's almost like it becomes hard to implement it once you like the pedal to the metal. Is that when your foot is pedaling the metal? When you're pedaling your foot into the metal, it's a little harder to do something like this. So yeah, I guess, do you have anything else to maybe like add to that you maybe are conscious of that you do when you're writing? Or is it just kind of like, I got to make sure I answer why?
It's not just a scripting. Honestly, I think I always told myself if I ever got the chance to be like in a pretentious interview, I would say something along the lines of why is my favorite question. And it kind of because why can lead you to most of the places that you want to go. Like for instance, why I think most of the stuff most of the god damn it, most of the value that you can get from any topic is exploring why you yourself care and backwards engineering that into trying to show someone else why they should care.
Hmm.
So, not just in the writing of why do you want to run fast, but why do I care about running fast?
Right.
Because if I can figure out why I care, then maybe I can make you care by talking about it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. A lot of times too, when you start to look at like the whys of things, topics like how to run fast, or like how to cook a food, or like how to do this, or even if it's not like a how-to video, it's not a tutorial video, but you're talking about like something like pixel art, or you're talking about like game development, or you're talking about a movie or a show. Oftentimes, like those subjects, you might have a common interest with that one subject, but most of the time when you start talking about whys, there's like some kind of um, there's a more like primal like emotion or thought or connection that's a lot more relatable than, like, okay, so we want to make sure that when we're striding, we're landing on the balls of our feet, right? So, like, if you can kind of get somebody invested in an idea or a thought that you both share, it's a really good way to connect with that viewer and make them more invested in you. So I think for me, like for me personally, when I do tutorial stuff, I don't do why. I do the like, why do I care question. Both are really good. But like whenever I'm trying to decide what to include in a video, if I can't answer like why do I care? Why should anybody care? Then it's normally like, okay, I don't need it. Or I need to add something so that somebody understands why they should care. Um, I like starting with the what, why, and how. What's the video about? Why should someone watch it? And how are you going to do it? What about the intro? Are you on board the story? Are you entertained? Do you find this person, group of people, interesting enough to hold your attention for the duration? Yeah. I think that I like that, stranger. That's pretty good. Holy, were you ready to kind of, or did you already share what you kind of wanted to talk through?
No, I'm ready and I need a screen share.
Okay.
You can give me that.
Yep.
I think you can see it.
Yep. I got you.
Is everyone in? Okay. So I had a little bit of a discussion with Orson. He basically gave me the advice when you have a script and you have a chapter. So in my case, I'm doing true crime, and that's basically pretty linear. So this happened first, and then this, and afterwards this, and then he killed her, or something like that. But he gave me the advice: if I have a fully and complete chapter, just try it and cut it in half, the lower half on the top and the other way around. And I've done it for my script, and also I've done it for my short, and this is what I wanted to show you now. Because my old short, or my first version of the short, was a woman vanished, and then boyfriend woke up and she was gone, and waited for 9 hours before calling for help, and never gave a formal police interview, and investigators still call the case suspicious. It is factually correct because it's the linear story, but the problem is it's kind of boring. You already you give I give the information in a flow, and it's not breathtaking. And then he gave me the advice to just cut it and put the lower half at the beginning. And then we have he never had to give a formal police interview. And so you have a question within your short without actually asking it like a question. And with just 2 or 3 sentences on the top from the middle of my script or from the end of my script, the script is way more, let's call it addicting. And I really like this technique. It has a special name. I don't have it in my head at the moment, but was a really good advice, and I think it really works out. And my script is, I would say, now on a higher level.
Yeah. That's really cool. So it's almost like what you're trying to do is front load the script with, I wouldn't say like the end of the story, but it's kind of like the important thing that you're building up to, and then you provide context to it afterwards. But just like a simple reordering of how you tell that story. Wait, hold on. Was that old one? We'll call it Brandon. Dude, never mind. All right.
Finally, you got the joke.
Yeah, I was gonna compliment you, but never mind. That's good advice.
Not anymore. No.
No, that's yeah.
So I have a second one because I heard about the how, why, and what,
Uh-huh.
and also that was a point Orson and me were talking about it. I will link it in the chat, the video, because I think it's great, and Simon Sinek is a great person to do a TED talk, and he talks about the marketing idea of a common company, and I think you can also stretch it to YouTube videos or any kind of content you want to produce. And I just will play a minute or something if it's okay.
Sure. Yeah.
Like everyone else. A marketing message from them might sound like this: we make great computers. They're beautifully designed, simple to use, and user-friendly. Want to buy one? Meh. And that's how most of us communicate. That's how most marketing is done, that's how most sales is done, and that's how most of us communicate interpersonally. We say what we do, we say how we're different or how we're better, and we expect some sort of behavior, a purchase, a vote, something like that. Here's our new law firm. We have the best lawyers with the biggest clients. We have, we always perform for our clients, do business with us. Here's our new car. It gets great gas mileage. It has, leather seats. Buy our car. But it's uninspiring. Here's how Apple actually communicates. Everything we do, we believe in challenging the status quo. We believe in thinking differently. The way we challenge the status quo is by making our products beautifully designed, simple to use, and user-friendly. We just happen to make great computers. Want to buy one?
Banger.
Well, that's the core message of the TED Talk, but he goes very more into the detail. I had it in my education, and I was blown away.
Yeah.
And it's a room with, I think, 200 or 300 people, and he just uses a little bit of a flip chart, and he brings his message so good to the listener or the audience. And I can just recommend this video and just think about what he says. The start with why, or just changing a little bit of the rhythm and the package, and you get different results, and usually way better because it's not our usual rhythm, and so your audience is way more attentive, or gives you more attention
Mm-hmm.
than the other way around, because we are engaged. Thank you. Because we already know this rhythm, we already know how this should work, but the other way around is something we don't know, and our brain starts to think about it unconscious in the lower brain. I don't know how to the curiosity gap. Yeah, basically that. And that was, I think, a 2-hour talk with Orson, compromised now to 5 minutes, but I think you get the message.
Yeah.
And really, if you want to watch the video, link is in chat. Yeah, that's my 2 cents to it.
Yeah. I've seen a few clips from him, and he's a very good public speaker. It's funny how, like, just real small changes that you can make instantly make what you're doing more engaging compared to, where you'd started at. Yeah. I think the hardest thing with a script is trying to make somebody care without being like a salesman. Because I think for the most part, people on YouTube are pretty, I think just people in general are pretty attuned to like sales languages now, right? Like they understand a lot of like the cliche lines and phrases and hooks that you can make in a video. So a lot of times when you open your videos with like, have you ever loved anything? Someone would be like, okay, here we go. Like, are you tired of bad things? Like, yeah, I'm tired of bad things. No, it like so what I think one of the other things that like one of the only other like good pieces of scripting advice that I normally give people is oftentimes if you're writing a video, people do something called like a double intro or a double hook. And so let's say we're doing the like how to run fast video. So your opening line might be like, are you tired of not being able to keep up with your friends? And then the next line is, what if there was a way to improve your speed? Right? You're essentially asking the same question, just in like different forms. So you can normally get rid of one of those lines and still have a strong intro. Or a lot of times you can even like a writing technique that I'll do is I might write a hook for a video or like my opening line. And then a lot of times in the edit, you can just completely delete this stuff and just get into whatever you're supposed to be saying in the video is just as strong, if not stronger, because you're not wasting time trying to like set somebody up for your video. You're just getting into the video. So that's my 2 cents. Did you guys have anything else that you wanted to add for like scripting? Or did anybody else have like questions when it comes to scripting, or wants feedback on scripts or anything like that?
Uh, I also remembered something that was a problem with my last video that like I read about in one of the writing books I picked up.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
W- One of the things that I think a lot of people early on into writing, they may be trying to sound smart. They may be trying to like put intention into trying to sound smart or to try to sound funny or to try to sound like whatever your theme is. I think the best way to write, if you want people to see what you're doing as genuine, is try your best to write in your own voice. Now, if you swear a lot and you do a lot of ums or whatever, then like, of course, don't do that. But writing in ways that you are used to speaking, it kind of leads you down a much more genuine place of talking. And it also makes a video go from feeling like someone is hearing something be explained to feeling like they're listening to a friend talk. If I am telling you in my mannerisms, if I'm telling you how I talk, not only can I apply my normal like my vocal speaking patterns to that whenever I'm recording the script, which makes it sound a lot more natural. It makes it feel a lot more natural to hear.
100p. I I think like I feel like this isn't new advice, but people often skipped over it. I always read my scripts out loud afterwards. Like I don't just kind of like mumble it. Like I'll read them out loud, and I find that's a really good way to put things in your own natural speaking language. Because sometimes it's hard when you're scripting or writing to like, you know, write something that feels like you would like normally say it. But if you actually try to like read it out loud, you'll normally catch yourself doing like, well, I would never say this shit ever.
Yeah, and almost counterintuitively, but not as much as you would think. Uh, every single like actually, I'm not gonna say every single, I don't know the entire industry, but almost every author has an editor. Trust that they understand that process, maybe get some people to go over your scripts to see how it goes.
That's really good
Get a se
advice.
get a second pair of eyes on it. Every time I write anything, I have a friend that, we
Weird
do these
flex.
things we do these things called writing sprints where we get a prompt and we get a certain amount of time, uh we get a certain amount of time to write a story under that prompt. And what I do before I finalize a script, like I have a few drafts, then I send it to a friend to see what changes they make. That way, if I say anything that they know about that needs to be changed, or if they're like, hey, this sentence drags on, but I didn't notice it, et cetera, and just in general, whenever you're revising the same script again and you're like, "Ooh, I need to make this better than the last," you can kinda go in the wrong direction, iterating and reiterating. So if you get a pair of fresh eyes before you finalize it, it can bring it back to a natural state because they will notice the weird patches that you've added that
Yeah.
you won't be able to notice because you're used to looking at it.
Yeah. I think just getting an extra pair of eyes on anything you do, scripting, editing, whatever, is just always really good. If it's somebody you trust. If it's not somebody you trust, then maybe just tell them to heck off. But getting feedback is a good idea. Wait, stranger, are we listening to all of this? Or is this just for reference afterwards if somebody wants to do a deep dive into script writing? Richard, okay. I was gonna say.
Uh, Also, another thing that I've done, you don't have to do it to this extreme. Uh, whenever I am revising anything, I physically print it out and go over it with like highlighters, paper, like tactile. But you can just change the font size or change the screen that you're reading it on because your brain kind of automatically, whenever you're trying to read something you wrote, your brain tries to be as efficient as it can. So it's going to skip over what it thinks it already knows. But if you change the formatting of the text you're reading, your brain isn't going to skip over it. So if you're trying to revise a script and you're trying to make it good, like not good, like I'm sure it's good already, but if you're trying to clean it up, set it, change it in a way where it looks different. That way your brain doesn't automatically skip it because you might just be going over mistakes that you would change if you would catch them, but your brain thinks it already knows it, so it's not going to give it to you.
So you have printer money. Got it. You're a millionaire. Must be nice.
I work for Walmart.
So Walmart's got print and paper money. That's crazy. All right. Anybody else? Scripting thoughts, questions, comments, concerns?
I wish Raj a happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Raj.
Happy birthday,
Woohoo.
Raj. Ours is for you. If it wasn't your birthday, we wouldn't be doing this right now.
Yeah, I think Raj got, he said he got like some kind of new computer. I don't know what he got, but I think he got a new computer for his birthday.
I think it was some kind of Linux thing.
Oh, that's cool.
Hello, guys.
Oh, no.
How did you do that?
I would like to talk about my new computer.
Have you heard? There's a new
have you
PC.
guys heard that I got a Mac Biggie? Yeah.
A Mac Biggie Smalls.
Yes, it was a Mac Biggie. How did you know? Man, people are aware.
You're a pretty popular guy.
Guys, I'll be honest. I was not even in the room. I have the shit on speakerphone. I heard you guys saying happy birthday to me, so I walked over.
Happy birthday, Raj.
Happy birthday, man. Congrats.
Thank you, guys.
Congrats. All right. Can we get a big round of applause for everybody for scripting talk? Thank you. Thank you. Nice work, everybody. Holy Faco. Appreciate you guys. Ven, did you have breakdown time that you wanted to do? Now, that seems like a dangerous thing to do right there. I don't know about that one. I never use the media or cut page. Go straight to the ed page. I'm missing out on something. What do the others do? Okay, Karen, I would say that you are perfectly okay not using the cut page. That place stinks. Anybody who uses the cut page, I don't trust you. I just don't trust you. I don't care how long you've been editing for. I just don't trust you. Cannot trust cut page users. In terms of the media page, so yeah, I would say the media page maybe. I don't spend too much time on it. If you're working on like bigger footage eyes, then the media page is kind of useful that way. I'll say the one thing that's kind of nice on the media page is, let's see if I can't find something. I guess it doesn't really matter too much, but like, let's say I go here, there's this really nice tool called the scene cut detection tool. So if let's say you're importing media that has already been like pre-rendered or pre-combined and you want to split it up into clips without having to like go through it, there's this like handy little option here that you can use to pre-cut up the scene, which is kind of cool. The other thing that I more often use it for is for importing footage and sound effects, because for me personally, what I know there's like some nice audio sorting tools, but like, you know, if you're trying to find sound effects or music, you got to kind of go through here and then like click and play. But like a lot of times for me, I just like looking at like the waveforms and kind of going from there. You normally get a feel for what kind of song it'll be. So the media pool, this is the one time I'll use it, as I'll come in here and then I can just kind of like scrub through. And I can jump to some of the different like needle drop moments and things that I'm curious about. But in terms of like, I don't know, there any other things in like the media pool that you guys can think of that are useful-ish? I've been looking for stuff, but I didn't find it. Okay, no worries. IntelliSearch, I think you can do that on the edit page as well, stranger. But yeah, IntelliSearch is cool. That's I think a new. Search mode faster. Yeah, that's, is that 21? Yeah, that's 20. Media pool doesn't exist again. The media pool is your friend. Trust me. Trust me. Need help on the color page? Okay. So, all right, I'll give you guys two choices. I can either do like the very, very, very basics of the color page, or we can do a video breakdown. So give me a 1 if you want color. Give me a 2 if you want video breakdown. So good. Hey, Raj. These are good comms. 1 and 2? I guess we could technically do both. That's fair. How about this? Okay, I'll do, for the people who have never really used the color page before, I'll do a very, very, very brief overview of the color page and some like really simple things you can do. Why doesn't somebody find a video that they would like me to take a look at? And it can be motion graphics. It can be, it could just be like a fun edit. It could be, oh, all right. Respati, beat everybody to it. Okay, so should we use the plane? Maybe I should use myself. I think we still have, yeah, we've got footage of me. Why not? What's wrong with the plane? All right. Let me go ahead and resize and position real quick. So the color page is scary. Can I get a hoorah? Hoorah. Where's the dude? I know it. We need the plane back. So the color page is scary because it has probably the most amount of just stuff. It's just stuff. It's just things. And I hope Tim does not come in here, because otherwise I'm going to get nervous real quick. For anybody who hasn't heard me say this about 20 times, DaVinci Resolve started as just this. All right. So when you downloaded DaVinci Resolve in the dinosaur age, you just did color correction. Over the years, we've incorporated the edit page, fusion, fair light. So the color page is the most, I'm just going to say it, it's the most built out in terms of just stuff. It's just got stuff. So a lot of times the question when it comes to the color page is like, what should I use? Like, which one of these things do I use? Like, look at this. I got curves here. I even got little more curves in here. What the, like a black and white curve? What are this? What are, oh, wait, we got this too. So don't even joke about Tim joining. I that would scare the crap out of me. So the thing to know about the color page is there's not a right answer. I'll tell you guys some things that are good to get comfortable with, and there's definitely better things to do rather than worse things to do. But the thing that with like the color page is you just kind of want to begin to understand what does what and how it affects what. So when we look at this image here of me, obviously the guy in the picture is going to be real difficult to work with. Like, doesn't look like they've showered. Lighting isn't the best. Like, just low, not a lot of signs of intelligence, right? So it's definitely not the worst kind of like webcam shot, but we can improve it. What I'd like you guys to get used to is just 3 nodes. Can I zoom in? Starting out, I don't want you to worry about doing, if you're, this is a kind of different when you're talking about working with like log footage or raw footage, but either way, even if you were, the workflow is going to stay the same. All right, we're going to do white balance, WB, white balance, or excuse me, did I do this wrong? Whatever, it doesn't matter. Exposure and contrast. Okay, white balance, exposure, and contrast. I know that's a little hard to read. You'll notice that nothing in here says saturation. There's nothing in here that says more color. One of the things I'd like you guys to get used to is using these guys over here. And this is probably like one of the scariest things to look at when you're on the color page are your scopes. Because you look at this and it's like, what the frick am I looking at? The trap that you can fall into when you're looking at your scopes is, again, it's trying to figure out where do these things belong. It's like, okay, I'm looking at this, so where like do these blues need to be somewhere? Like, what does this even mean? It doesn't matter. This starting rate, it doesn't matter. All that we're looking at is the distribution of your frame in graph form. So this scope in particular is called your waveform, and there's 2 different versions of it. There's the waveform with your different color channels, and then there's a parade that splits it up into RGB. The only thing that you should try to practice is there's this little setting in your scopes over here called display qualifier focus. The qualifier is a little eyedrop over here. If I hover it over my image, if you look in the bottom right, let me close this. You can see how it affects, or where, like, you know, if I'm highlighting here, it looks like this-ish area is where my skin tone is at. Do I just make it pretty? Why do I need to color grade? And okay, so why do I need to color grade? You don't. You don't have to. Like, if you're just doing YouTube stuff, don't worry about it. Like, if I would not color grade gameplay footage. But for people who are working with camera footage, if you're looking at it and go like, damn, I don't know how to make this better, this is what we're talking about. So The thing I'm gonna say, I'm trying to decide what I'd like to talk about. I'll try to. I'm gonna try to be efficient through this and not try to confuse people. There's two scopes that I want you guys to get comfortable with when we're looking at color grade. Waveform is the distribution of dark versus light. So darker values on the bottom, lighter values on the top. We have different ways of controlling how we increase or decrease our brightness. So I think the primary set of controls that you'll want to use are over here, your color wheels. Your color wheels and your curve. Both of these do essentially the same thing in different manners of speaking. So if I go over to my curves over here, we're looking at changing dark values versus light values. So if I go over here and grab this dark point and I pull it in, we're moving down the black point of the image and I'm pulling it down. Vice versa, if I were to go over here and click the upper right value, we're moving the white point or the bright point of the image. I can either make it brighter or darker. All right. Curves are, I think, a more intuitive approach for a lot of people. Lift, gamma, gain, offset. These things tend to be very intimidating, but the thing that I'd like you to remember is shadows, midtones, highlights. Shadows, midtones, highlights. Shadows, midtones, highlights. Shadows, midtones, highlights. Okay, so if I'm changing the shadow area, these are the darker regions of our image. So if I increase the shadows, we're pushing up the darker regions and decreasing the darker regions. Gamma, midtones. It affects it a little bit differently because we're focusing on the midtones of our image. Gain, highlights, messing around with the brighter parts of our image. Offset is everything. So I have a cool little example that Tim showed me that is going to be really easy for understanding the difference between all of these. But offset shifts everything uniformly. Oh, dude, Adobe, get out of here. Okay. So shadows, midtones, highlights. Shadows, midtones, highlights. If I go over to my effects tab and I bring in this guy, little 10-step buddy. It's a cool way of looking at how the different wheels affect your colors. So there we go. This is the distribution of dark region, light region, dark, light. Can I shrink this? Oh, it's just the same size. All right. Dark, light. So bottom right. Oh, thank you. Good comms. Good comms. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. If I were to increase the value of my lift, shadows, how do you expect it to affect this curve? I know it's kind of hard to type this out, but just give it a think. If I'm going to increase the shadows, how would you expect it to affect this curve? Well, the way I like to think about this, I'm a math guy, all right? So for me, when I'm thinking about stuff like this, I like to think it, well, actually, I think math might be more confusing than anything. Never mind. Math might be more confusing than anything. So if I increase the lift, watch how the bottom part of our curve changes with respect to the top. And in fact, it almost looks like this top point, this white point, doesn't change at all. And if you thought that, you would be right. Okay. Now, if we were to look at something like midtones, it's a very different shift. And you'll notice that both the shadow or the black point and the white point stay pinned. And we're only affecting the midtones of our images. Gain. Right? Okay. Whatever, pizza. Now check this out. Offset, remember how we said is a global shift? It just brings that sucker up and down. So why the hell is this important? Why? Like, it's cool. It's cool. Obviously, to understand this is kind of fun because, we are increasing knowledge. I'm here in my garage. But why is this important? Well, the color page is all about troubleshooting, right? Remember, there's not a right answer. We're just trying to figure out how to make our stuff look better. So if I were to go back to my video here, let's say that the dark regions were, like we're looking at this and our dark regions were sitting a little too green. Well, what I could do is I could go the opposite of direction of green, purple, and we're going to affect that a lot. Actually, let me do something real quick, just for the purpose of this example, so we got a little bit more contrast to play with. Highlights. Let's say the highlights are a little too orange. If I pull this to blue, we get a much different look compared to if I were to reset that and then pull my lift to blue. Watch our scopes, okay? So if I have everything reset down here, look at the separation, probably in our midtones region. If I were to go and pull this red down to blue, you can literally see this red line become closer to the blue line. So when we talk about the color page, the thing that is hard to get good at is understanding what looks off and why does it look off. From there, you can then begin to use your tools to correct it. So this is the workflow that I want everybody. Actually, I guess before I talk through the workflow itself now, is there any questions on that? On just, what I kind of talked to? If you think of something, feel free to pipe up. So the three nodes that we're going to talk through: white balance, exposure, contrast. Sometimes I think these two are flipped. And I think for this example, it might be a good idea to actually do, I always forget what button it is to get rid of these, whatever. All right, the color page is not my domain. Might be a good idea to address the exposure first. Exposure is, you can think of it as like the, that's why I'm glad Tim's not here. You can think of it as like the overall brightness of the image. So how bright or dark is our image? If you filmed in sunlight, you might need to bring the exposure down. If you dwell in a cave, you might need to bring the exposure up. Now, when I talk about exposure, the question is, how do we add more exposure? Which one of our tools should we use? Well, you might think, well, if I want to bring the darker things up, I bring up the lift. We want to make sure we're keeping our black point the same. So what I'd like you to do is increase your gain. Where do we stop? At what point do we stop increasing exposure? I don't know. When? When? Where? Should you use your skin tones to judge when to stop? Am I going to use the highlights of my beanie? When? Yeah. So Noel brings up a good point. See this, our vector scope here? There's a point where we go past the top of our graph, or we go below the bottom. This is called clipping. A lot of times this is called crushing your blacks and blowing out your whites. So that's something we got to be conscious of. The reason that's bad is because, you know, when we go past that black point, we lose information. We no longer have any like color information about those points. Something we're keeping an eye on. The other thing that's kind of a good idea is we're going to use our skin tones a lot if you have a person in the shot to kind of figure out how bright or how dark you want something to be. This is obviously going to be like very dependent on what you're going for. But oftentimes I believe with skin tones, anywhere, I think it's from like 30, 40 to like 70, 80, just somewhere in this region, depending on your shot. So if I have my qualifier here, it looks like we're there-ish. Cool. The other way that you can go about doing this is curves. So when we use the curves, if this is something you're more comfortable with, shadows, midtones, highlights. Same, but different. Whatever floats your boat. Most people who, I'm on the wrong node. Most people who are in the coloring space are going to advise you to start getting comfortable using your wheels. And there's a good reason for it, but we're not going to cover it today. Just trust. Okay. So next part is white balance. So we got exposure. When we look at our white balance, the only two scopes you're ever going to need to learn, at least from my understanding, is your parade or your waveform. So one of these guys, and then your vector scope. Vector scope is a fun one and probably the most confusing. So when we look at our vector scope, we're looking at a color wheel and where our image sits on that color wheel. The further away from the center we are, the more saturated we are. The closer to the center we are, the more desaturated we are in our image. I have this line right here. We'll talk about that in just a second. There's two ways that you can go about white balancing your image. And I just want you guys, like, just so we're taking a step back, I've been talking for a little while now. We're only doing 3 things. It's going to feel like it's a lot, but you figure out these 3 things, you can do them real quick. Exposure, all we did was we looked at our parade and adjusted our gain. Our vector scope, we can balance our image 2 ways. So you guys, anybody not know what white balancing is? Can I get a who yeah if you don't know what white balancing is? Because I feel like I might have made an assumption there. Yahoo. Stranger, you know what white balancing is. All right. Let's say, just real quick, if you're shy and aren't quite sure, let's say I have this light here, right? That should be a white or a gray. But because of the lighting, because of the sunlight, because of the room that I'm in, because of light reflecting off of green walls, that light was sitting orange. Or here, let me use the offset. Okay, we're sitting somewhere off the center here. Well, when we white balance, what we're attempting to do is bring our whites and our grays back to a true white or a true gray. These things, temp and tint, are bad to use. It's not the worst thing to, I mean, most people are going to tell you to avoid using this just because it's similar to using saturation in a sense, where when you use the saturation bar down here, you can break your image very easily. So how do we white balance then? Well, two ways of going about doing it. One, balance to white, or two, balance to skin tone. I'm going to get to skin tone here in just a second. I talked about the center being desaturated. These are the areas that should be right in the center, right? If I'm talking about a white point or a perfectly gray point, there should be no hint of color, right? So if I was looking at this and I see this little cluster here, obviously we're not white balanced. I'm looking a little pink, a little red. So one of the ways that you can balance your image is by trying to get this region back to center. That's as simple as that. The reason I'm using my offset is because it's a global shift. If I were to reset this, let's say I have this shifted over here, right? Remember, when we use lift, gamma, or gain, there's a certain aspect of our image that stays pinned at a location. So if I were to use something like gain, it's a lot trickier. You can still do it, but it's a little bit trickier to get back to middle. All right. So that's one way of doing it, and it's not a bad approach. The other thing that we can do is we can balance to skin tone. So when I hover my little qualifier over here, and I think even hopefully Discord's showing this decently well. My skin, I mean, I'm a pretty pasty guy, but I'm looking fairly pink at the moment. This little line here that I ignored is our skin tone indicator. You can find it in the, not the three dots, but it's on your vector scope in the filter settings. Show skin tone indicator, show 2x zoom. No matter if you are white, black, brown, Hispanic, Asian, if you're from Greenland, or if you're from the Congo, this is not an absolute rule, but the majority of everybody's skin tone falls on this line. Everybody. You might be a little closer to the center. You might be a little bit further away. Again, not an absolute rule, but this is the natural skin tone line for all human beings on this planet. So the other thing that we can do is shift my skin tone to be closer to that line. So I could do something like this, where I shift my skin tone to be closer to that line. But now we're kind of breaking our image. So this is where we got to make some judgment calls, right? We can either balance to the white balance, balance the skin tone, or do a little bit of both and try to correct for the other. The other thing that we can do as well is sometimes if you're balancing the skin tone, it's not a bad idea to use the gain point. Because most of the time the shadows we kind of want to leave alone. But this is a tricky shot. So I'm going to show you what I would do in this situation and how I would correct it. All right. So I'm going to balance just to the white point, our gray point here. Vispati, have a good evening. I appreciate you sharing. Appreciate you hanging out as well. We're just going to leave it at that. All right. So before, after. 2 nodes. I changed the gain on my exposure, and I change the offset ever so slightly, that is it, right? A lot of talking for just 2 small changes. Last thing that we need to do is contrast. Contrast is the separation of color values. I'm going to say that again. Contrast is increasing the separation of color values. So there is a contrast slider here. And just like these other ones, it can break your image very, very quickly, right? You don't have a ton of control when you're using the contrast slider. So if I wanted to create contrast in my image, if I want to create separation between color values, well, I'm going to go back to my waveform here. We can do it 2 ways. Using our curve, using the wheels. And I really don't care how you go about doing this. But we could do something like increase our gain, or maybe increase our gamma just a little bit. Bring these values up. Decrease the lift. Oops. All right, guys. Or after. The other way, so typically if I'm doing a little contrast, I like using the curves. So the reason being is you get like a visual representation of your brightness values on this curve. So you can pick a couple points and just do a little boost. Maybe I don't even need, maybe I just need a little boost. I don't know. I don't even know if we really need all that much contrast. Right? It's very easy to break your image when using some of these things. Small changes normally lead to big results. So before, after. Exposure, white balance, contrast. At no point in here am I changing my saturation. But if you look at, let's look at the blanket I have in the background. Look at that red. My beanie. Right? Because we're just playing around with color values and we're just increasing the point on the brightness spectrum of what they're sitting, oftentimes you will restore saturation from just using these 3 nodes. Is there any questions on what I've done so far? Or like, what would I, kind of a thing? What I will say is, like, this would be the basics of the color page. From here, this is like a whole, it's just a giant tentacle pit of problems that you can go into. There's so much to the color page. There's so many things that you could talk about in here. But if you just need like the very basics, exposure, white balance, contrast, oftentimes this is called color. This is like the basics of color correction. We're not grading our footage. We're not applying a look to our footage. We're just getting it to a place that's workable. A place to where if we wanted to do something like a little split tone, we can do that now. We can now do things where we add some oranges to our highlights, some blues to the shadows, and create a look. Or we can even do things where we just make it a little orange, a little summery, blue, wintry, sad, right? Color correction, color grading. The only other thing that I've talked to some people about is like correcting for skin tones if you're really struggling to do it with white balance. I don't know if we have enough time to talk through it today, but there's tools in here that you can use to select just a range of values. Right. So there's ways to like hyper focus and fixate on certain color values. And then you can change your skin tones a little bit. Oops. It is quite the look. Yeah, the qualifier is really cool. So like, you know, if you wanted to change the color of the blank in the background, you can do that. Or yeah, change the color of the beanie. That's probably a better one to do. Lots of cool things. Okay, any questions on color page? Exposure, white balance, contrast. Lift, gamma, gain. First person to tell me what lift, gamma, gain mean gets 50 brownie points. Haha, stranger. Add brownie points. Plus 50. W. All right. So like the color page is always crazy. Just we did very, very small changes, right? But it makes such a big difference on your image. The only caveat that I'll say to the color page is be careful. Like a lot of people in here do like gameplay stuff. Be careful doing any kind of color correction to gameplay footage. Most of the time, like gameplay has a look to it. It has a style to it that somebody's already designed. So you don't normally need to do any touch-ups unless you're going for a specific style. Yeah. There's, I don't know. There's not often a lot you can do with it. All right. So I think we had a video breakdown that we wanted to do next. Yes, maybe. No. Call it a year. Break it down. Holy. You think you're funny. You think you're funny. I'm seeing this guy. This thing? Oh. It goes into like the letters. Hmm. 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 Pass. Do I get to say no? I am scared. It like I don't know. I think a lot of times, like a lot of times with stuff like this, there's just so many different ways you could approach it. I just don't know which way is going to be the fastest and which way is going to be the more annoying. Yeah, in essence, Ben. So the thing that is different is if we go frame by frame, it would be one thing if we animate on a rectangle and then expand it. But this is done in After Effects because the text is being used as a basis to expand. So what you can do for something like this, Jacka, is kind of what you're saying. You could split up the letters and use the erode dilate if you wanted to. The other thing that you could do is yeah, it looks like that's how they do it. The follower. That's a good call. Let's try it. Let's try it, man. I like that. I like that better. So there's a few scripts out there. If you're on the free version of DaVinci, you're kind of out of luck. GG's only. But there's there you can okay. So if you're gonna use the way we're gonna do it, you can do it on the free version. What I was gonna suggest is that there's a launcher for DaVinci Resolve. I think there's a couple of them, but the one I'm thinking of is called the Taquito launcher. Not taquito like chicken taquito, but like Tekito. And it has a tool that'll automatically split up letters for you with a text node. What is wrong with Taquito's launcher? So if you have something like it's blue, it'll split up all your text node. Or it'll split each letter into a text node, which is kind of cool. All right, let's give it a shot. Let's give it a shot. We are in Fusion. Fusion. Let's try. I just want to figure out the animation first. So I'm not going to worry about a follower modifier. I just want to try to figure out if we can't get the animation to work. So I think there's only one animated property. Two. Oh, bye, Faco. They already left. All right. Get out of here. Scram. I think it's just the width of the letter. So if we go to we add a second yeah, I think this will work. Okay. So I believe if we're gonna have to do two things. The property that we're gonna increase is on a second element. It's gonna be our outline element. Hold on. Actually, check this out. Okay, yeah. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna end up doing two things. One is we're gonna have our thickness element like so. This as is don't look good, right? It's kind of weird. See, I just don't know if this is gonna work, gang. The way it's expanding. Hold on. Okay, there we go. There we go. All right. It still might end up being kind of funky. So what I'm looking at right now is how our border is expanding. So when there's a, oh, there's a limit. Okay. When I'm on the joint style here, it's changing how the edge expands at intersectable areas. So if we go to the meter one and we play around with increasing this, let's go to somewhere like 10. If we decrease the meter limit, okay, it looks like we can cut off one of those edges. Just kind of see how this expands in and out. I think this works. This is looking better. So what I'm doing right now for anybody who is a little bit newer to Fusion is whenever I'm trying to like break down an effect, before I start clicking around and trying to animate things, because I'm not as familiar with this kind of animation, what I'm trying to understand is how the properties are affecting our image. And once I get an idea of that, then I can begin to animate and keyframe it. So here's what we're going to do, crew. I think I got it now. I understand it now. All right. Let's go ahead and add a follower modifier. The reason we're going to add a follower modifier is this animation is sequential, one by one at a time. All right, we're going one letter at a time. So that's easy enough to do with a follower modifier. So I'm going to right click in the text field and we're going to go to follower, over to modifiers. And I'm going to add just a 1 frame delay to start. The property that we want to have animated is going to be the second shading element, right? We don't want to animate our font fill. We just want our second property to animate. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to toggle this on, and we might have to play around with this, but just bear with me. We're going to start at 0. I'm going to set a keyframe. And then, oh, you know what? I'm on a 60 FPS timeline. Let's go to a more conventional one. Let's go to 24. Night, Van. Enjoy your evening. All right. And I believe this is right around a second. Maybe a little bit more. Let's go over to frame 30. And I'm going to set up my thickness until it expands off to the left over here. 3.83. Money. Dude, Panda sounds so good right now. I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of Panda. All right. So what I've done so far is just keyframed our follower modifier, added this red text. And I'm going to, I think we'll just leave it like so. We'll give it a standard S curve on the smooth here. All right. So one of the things that looks a little off is that the outline is a different color. So all we need to do is link the shading color to our font color. So I think I can I publish the whole group? Or I can just text one.red1. Try that. We need to set these equal to each other. So I'm just going to set some expressions so that they are all equal to each other. So now if I were to go and change our font color, it should change it for all of them. So we need to go find that blue. So I'm going to leave this off on my other monitor here, and we're going to go grab that color, keyframe it, go to black. Oh, I need to add, we're going to have to delay the color change as well. Because when the colors, see how they stack on top of each other here? So we're going to have to do that with the follower modifier as well. So I believe we can go here, go over to element 1, keyframe. What was that color again? How bizarre. So it doesn't set it equal to it on. Interesting. Okay, so we're gonna have to reset these over here. That is so interesting. Do I have to keyframe that as well? How bizarre. Disable right caching? Are you talking to me? Okay. So it looks like I'm going to have to keyframe. There we go. So we just got to trigger the follower modifier. Doesn't quite follow it. How interesting. We're so close. I'm curious as to... Oh, because this one is now going on top of it. We have the right color animation motion, but because these layers are going, because the outline is on top of the text, so I think what we need to do is just put it underneath it. Let's try this. Let's try this. Sorry. Also, I'm sorry if I'm being quiet. I'm just trying to think through how I would do this. Is everybody following kind of what just happened there, or not really? And it is okay if you didn't. Following. Okay. W. Here we go. Got it. Ladies and gentlemen, we got him. Fusion is better than After Effects. Come on now. Stop playing with me, man. That's a funky one to try to figure out, though. So they do the reverse animation as well. It's essentially just taking the keyframes and then inverting them, yeah. So you could like, here's what I would do. You could try to copy and paste those frames inside of Fusion, or you could literally just do something like this, where you take your animation, go over here, compound it, and then put that thing, flip it down and reverse it. Sheboygan. Okay. Was everybody following there? Questions, comments, concerns? Do you think I look nice today? Be honest. The font looks kind of, dude, you suck my kneecap, man. Here we go. Even better. You know. How do you do this in Calvary? Has anybody been messing around with Calvary at all? That's cool though. That's a fun effect. I've been seeing some stuff on it. It looks cool. It looks cool. It's cool. So just to summarize for my my silent listeners out there, there were, I would say, 2, maybe 3 things that are kind of tricky with this. One is just figuring out how to expand the text. So that's step 1. And the way that we did that was by just turning on the text outline and animating its thickness, this thickness property over here. The other thing is getting the expanding outline to match the color with the body of the text. And to do that, all we did was link the properties. So I did mine with an expression. I think that's probably the way that you're going to have to do it with something like this, where it's all in the same node. But I just set those colors to be the same as the first shading element. The last thing that was kind of hard to do is and I don't think I said this out loud, when you're working with text, these shading elements are set up in order of priority. So element 1 will be above element 2. Element 2 will be above element 3. See how the shadow goes behind it? There's a way that you can change that by changing the, where is it? The Z position here. which I guess I should have just done. I'm an idiot. All right, I'm an idiot. Don't mind me. But you can change how the different properties sit on top of each other. So there's a certain point where I can put in front of the outline, but behind the body of the text. And if I cycle to my different shading elements, see this one's at 7, 8, 6, 21, right? So the problem that I was having was that the expanding outline was behind the text. And so the original text elements were still showing up. So to do that, we flipped the order around. Yeah. Whoa, we got Eli here? That's my that's my hero. Eli, I think Eli might be the best of us. In all sense of the best. Like, handsome, charismatic, smart, better editor, probably has friends, cringe if you think about it, but all good. Probably knows how to ride a bicycle, not bald. We don't know that for sure. That one we don't know for sure. S3 mansions. Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. Any other questions on this guy? Hey, hi, how you der? Anything like that? That's a cool little effect. I like it. I like it. I like it. Good comms, everybody. Good comms. What about the way back? What do you mean? What's the way back? Oh, yes. So the way that they did theirs is, oh, I'm reloading. There we go. The way that they did theirs was they actually animated it backwards. So you can see if you watch this animation, it goes left to right both times. Left to right, left to right. Right. Left to right. Left to right. I was lazy and I just made a copy of our fusion composition. I turned it into a compound clip, which bakes our stuff in place. It sets our footage in place. And then I took that compound clip and then reversed it. So the order is backwards, but you still get the same animation. Yeah, you could think of it like that, right? So like if I have the plane footage here, if I zoom in on our plane footage, I can zoom out because, we've got more footage to work with. However, if I were to zoom in here and I compound this clip, it sets our footage in place to where I can no longer zoom out and retain that information because it's acting as like a new clip. It's kind of like, yeah, the phrase is, well, I don't know if it's the normal phrase, but you like bake it in place. The cool thing with compound clips though, Ven 2, is you can open them up in their timeline, make changes, and it'll update it for you. I have mine mapped to Control-Shift-C, and then to open it in timeline, I have C.